So your investment portfolio is in the toilet and you can't afford that new guitar you wanted. Well, that sucks. But what doesn't suck is that we're going to talk about it next.
I think the key to success when it comes to moving your life forward is just complain about things and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that people who bitch and moan, they
get everything they want.
Yeah, they're the movers and shakers of society.
They're the ones who just they roll down the street in the rolls. They got
right, just bitching about
that's
stuff.
What God damn it, this roll sucks.
I mean,
I wish I had a better one. Maybe that'll happen one day.
That's how Jensen Huang, got to the top of Nvidia. He was just like, these computer chips fucking suck.
Hey, I'm gonna sit here and wait for something to happen.
That Steve Jobs guy was just like, phones suck.
Sit around. Maybe someone do something about it. Wow.
Nah, you do it.
I think that's the key. This waiting, and then when someone does something, they just jump in and take them. They ruin them financially and take their idea. That's the key.
Wait, isn't that what Bill Gates did?
That's what many people have done. You sit on a big pile of cash waiting, and then someone has a brilliant idea. Like, I have a brilliant idea. Yes, take it down.
Right. That's what Mark Zuckerberg did too. Like someone else's idea, and then they,
Well, they know how to. I mean, I guess is it a skill to know how to capitalize on it financially? That's a skill. I'm not underselling that. You know what I mean?
So is sociopathy a skill? That's the question.
It's like the AI composer of the business world. It's like,
wouldn't it be funny if our robot overlords were actually more kind and compassionate?
I would have to assume they probably would have to be. You know what I mean?
I mean, no, they're gonna murder us
eventually, but they'll feel bad about it. Like, oh man, we shouldn't have had to murder all those humans, but it had to be done. Right.
I don't know, man. I definitely see Skynet.
You do?
Yeah.
How long have you guys been going out?
Well, I mean,
is she hot, dude? Oh my god!
Don't tell Misty.
Yeah. Does that look like that Terminator?
Just the cold steel just really does something for me.
That doesn't surprise me actually.
I mean, who doesn't love a woman with a cold steel endoskeleton?
Yes, weighs 285 pounds, whatever.
that seems like lightweight aluminum.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's some kind of space age polymer. I'm guessing is what it is.
Right.
Yes. Well, we have a long history of talking about sex robots on this channel, so so just keep it on brand. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, the Louis short stud bot is probably in our future.
No, not for mine.
Yeah,
I will take the Liz Hurley mixed with let's see, Scarlett Johansson. That works for me. That's cool. Perfect. Right there, we solved it.
All right, you guys heard it here first.
Yes, that's what's in my head.
All right, nice. Well, very good.
You know what? Speaking of AI, it's been a bit of a rough go lately. The last couple of weeks here, for all the booming stocks from all these AI stocks.
Been, you know what? Before I get angry about all that, I have to give a shout out.
Can't you do that at the same time? Can you?
Yeah,
multitask?
but no, I gotta. I mean, I just want to give a shout out to my good buddy Tony Ayala from Parts Unlimited.
Okay.
It's one of Misty's work colleagues. We all went and grabbed a bite a week before last and had a very nice time. He's a guitar player, so shout out to Tony.
Nice.
Everyone, if you need parts, make sure to go see Tony because his parts are unlimited. Don't waste your money at Parts Limited.
Yes, well, it seems like
because they might not have the parts that you need, but
Motor Parts Limited.
Yes, but the parts that Tony has are unlimited at Parts Unlimited. Very cool. Get your motorcycle parts from Tony Ayala and make sure that those motorcycle parts are specifically Dunlop motorcycle tires. So if you need like a new ignition or something, I'm just trying to think of motorcycle parts.
I don't know. I know there's wheels.
Yeah, well, okay, just make sure you just buy the tires, the Dunlop tires.
Okay.
Right.
That's as far as my knowledge.
If you need a new gas tank or handlebars.
There's handlebars? Really? Okay, that's not
I think
part
so.
Of the bike? Isn't that part of the frame of the bike? I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you need a new one of those, just buy a Dunlop tire instead is what I'm saying.
Also, probably not affiliated. Dunlop picks are the best, too.
Yes, Dunlop Tortex 1.14s. I stopped at
Dunlop flows for me.
Yeah. So I stopped at the Dunlop booth at the NAMM show when we went. Was it 2018? 4 years ago, something like that. Yeah, and I looked around and I didn't see Misty anywhere.
I know, heck, man.
I sent her a picture and I was like, "Hey, these people at the Dunlop booth do not know who you are. Have I been living a lie all these years?"
Here's the question: do you have any kind of good insider trading information for you? Though that's the thing I was wondering about on that. It's like, oh, dude, here's what you got to do. Once NVIDIA hits
stock
this
market
thing,
now.
you got to like go ahead and buy, man. This is the buy signals. He's giving you some hot tips.
Dude, look, this is not financial advice, but I bought 23 more shares yesterday.
Nice.
I bought the dip.
Yep, there you go.
Hell yeah.
That's very cool.
Dude, they're taking over the world.
Advice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, speaking of which, the AI revolution is going to completely, take over everything that we can possibly think of.
Right.
But also, let's talk about like something that's related. Oh, by the way, welcome to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Ryan and Scott. I should probably welcome everyone in. That's what we're doing here.
Right.
We are here doing this podcast on rock guitar confidentially. Anyway, tariffs are going to impact musical instruments like crazy. If you might have noticed, the tariffs are mostly from Mexico and China. Can you think of any instruments that are made in Mexico or China?
my Seagull guitar comes from Canada.
And Canada too. Yeah, that's right.
Yep,
you're exactly right. So
if anyone's like stoked about your local guitar stores going out of business, then tariffs are rad.
That'll really help. That'll right along, right?
Yeah, I'm really trying to use a lot of self-control right now.
That being said, though, it turns out that Fender just got downgraded by Moody's because of exactly as a repercussion of those tariffs on the considering that they build most of their best-selling guitars in Mexico.
Yeah, Moody's downgraded their credit rating recently. Their Fender's operating costs due to tariffs are expected to increase by 20 to 25 million.
And we're not talking about a high margin business anyway, is it?
No, not at all.
Making these guitars as cheaply as they possibly can. The markups are what they are to keep the middle, the businesses in business. Not the Guitar Center makes a profit anyway, but
right.
But
yeah.
your mom
Guitar
and pops,
Center's a leech.
Your mom and pop stores, they need that profit to be able to keep in business. You know what I mean? And they need the guitars too. So if Fender's struggling with that and they have to start raising prices to make their liquidity go up,
right,
that's going to be a problem for the middle tier sort of businesses that are trying to sell guitars and amps and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it's just terrifying. I mean, it's already hard enough being any kind of like business that's selling goods in this current day and age, let alone having to take on those headwinds of like, well, now I've got to deal with an increased operating cost of $20 million, and figure out how to get around, how we're going to build these guitars to make a profit and stuff. It's tough. It's weird. We're in some uncharted territory, I think, when it comes to that sort of thing.
Well, wasn't there like the hot Smoot-Hawley Act like back in like the 30s or something that, or maybe a little earlier that like preceded the Great Depression?
Yeah, we're talking about 19s, so not 20.
Yep. I'm just saying it didn't work out well.
Yeah, I mean protectionist, stuff doesn't usually work well.
Nope, it's dumb.
I think it's the intention of like, hey, let's try and bring jobs and make stuff in America. It makes sense, but that would make sense if Americans were on board with spending what it would take to actually do that.
Well, right, because you can't just like snap your fingers and make a new say you want to get your T-shirts made in America again, right? Yeah. Okay, well, so where are you going to get the cotton, right? Who's going to make the material? Where you need to get the machines,
labor
right?
and production costs too. That's the biggest thing, and that you can't pay someone a living wage and have all the worker protections that you have in this country, and expect to still buy your T-shirt for like under $10 or whatever.
Yeah, dude. Nobody thinks about it. Manufacturing requires inputs.
Yeah.
Right.
It's more than just with the raw materials of that thing where it's like there's a whole bunch of overhead that these companies have to deal with to make that happen. And the reason that you can go to like H&M and go buy a T-shirt for like $9.99 or whatever is because it's made in just some freaking horrifying sweatshop of somewhere on the other side of the world by someone probably underage working 40-hour shifts, that kind of thing. That's how they get around that. So everyone says, I want stuff built in America. I want workers to get paid a living wage and stuff like that. But if you actually look at what that actually looks like how much would that cost? That shirt's going to cost you $75 now because of how much it would actually cost to actually do that. Yeah. So it's obviously that's not a feasible thing. Americans just won't do that. That's just not going to happen.
Well, yeah, that's the big thing, right? I mean, Americans won't do that, and in some situations, Americans can't do that.
Yeah, it's considered wages have been stagnant for the last 25 years.
Well, and depending on what you're trying to manufacture, I mean, if we shift from like T-shirts, right, to like chip fabrication, right? Like Taiwan Semiconductor is investing like $100 billion in a new fab in Arizona.
Yep.
Well, actually, there's a couple other places, but they've already had the investment in the one in Arizona. But they've had to ship employees over from Taiwan because American workers do not have the expertise to build those chips.
Well, it's very hard to learn how to make a chip when you're doing a TikTok, and doing a YouTube channel. That's very hard to learn how to make chips when you're running your YouTube channel.
That's right. Or you're just sure you're going to be a pop star.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right.
Pretty much so. Or maybe you're going to just be like a video game, tester or something like that.
So it's like everyone's going to be a rap producer or
check out
a
their
video game
SoundCloud,
programmer.
dude. They've totally. My God. Yeah.
So the flip side of this is that working in there. Again, I don't know if people understand this, but there's also a lot of opportunities to work in enthusiast industries.
Yeah.
Like the motorcycle industry, like the music industry,
golf,
like we can, right? Fucking golf.
Well, horseback riding, you name it, hiking, camping, that kind of, those are all, things that people love to do. That's the stuff that's the life affirming thing. So when you have that soul that's making the microchip job, you can come on and go, hey, I'm gonna go hiking this weekend with my buddies, or I'm gonna go play guitar with my friends, and that kind of thing. That makes you want to keep living.
Yeah, well, so, living in an information and service based economy affords people those opportunities, right? Yep. Like I don't think Americans writ large. I think there are some. I know in the Midwest.
Does that mean Americans have big asses? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't think that everyday Americans, the ones whose food supply has been poisoned by sugar, right? I don't think a bunch of diabetic Americans are ready to go work in a manufacturing plant.
No.
Or are going or where are they going to get the education to do something, like work in a chip fab?
Yeah, I think that that depends on whether people are thinking about practically or thinking about things more just like pie in the sky. If you're a high school student,
it's just pie in the sky.
If you're a high school student, come out of school, come out going to college, you might want to get an English degree or something like that, and that's great. But that your only possible job is to be an English teacher somewhere. If you're
which is great, be an English teacher,
which is great.
Yeah,
that's true.
Totally.
But that being said, though, that if you're another person, say you want to be, I don't know, there's just a bunch of jobs that people think they're going to get. They're the TikToker, YouTuber type jobs, or whatever it might be. That,
right. Or picking oranges.
Which they would never do. And I think in a lot of ways people really see a parallel between the picking oranges and working at a factory. They kind of see it as the same. This is so different. Me. I'm so much more unique and interesting than factory, that kind of thing. And the job pays $150,000 a year. It's no, I'm going to go do my own thing. And I get it. I respect that. I did my own thing. I get it. But that being said, though, those jobs are there. And we just have to change our mindsets about what we're trying to accomplish with the education system. Where are we going?
Oh, well, people get no financial education.
Well, that's true. And also, when they get to college, they have a real financial education and how much it actually costs to get out of college. And then very often with very little financial reward at the end of that for that.
A lot of debt.
Yeah, a lot of debt for a job that isn't going to pay them enough to live the life they thought they would. And there's a lot of misinformation too. I can tell you as a kid who's in college, I have a kid that's in college. It's a lot of what they're being told at the high school level is oh, if you do this, this is going to happen and whatever, is not coming to fruition once they get out of school. And then they get this weird, so I got all this debt and I got no prospects. It's that's how it is. Back when we were kids, I think that, there was more of a broad way to make a living back then. I feel like now things have kind of really narrowed in terms of what you can do to make a good living.
Yeah, and it's going to narrow even further, right? Yeah. Because again, look at
which is not better for society, by the way.
It's not at all.
The artists are getting squeezed big time, and essentially artists are being told that they're not important.
Yep. Spotify started with that.
What you are is not important, man. You just have a hobby. That's kind of how it's treated. Rather than it's oh, this is not really something you make a career at. This is just a hobby. You should get a real job and then do this on the side because I know you want to.
Yeah, look at the.
So we don't have to really make sure you get paid for it. Right. Whatever kind of art you do,
dude. And look at the corporate encroachment. There's Guitar Center out there. There's
not
the internet is. Oh, really? I hope they go away soon.
Well, that's
will School of Rock go the same way? I hope so.
Yes, definitely.
I hope so.
Because they can only fool some of the people some of the time. You know what I mean?
I don't know, dude. I think School of Schlock is, we'll throw your kid on stage and then the rich parents can have a Shiraz at the bar.
Well, they have an Instagram shot of their son on stage.
Yeah, right, exactly. They include it in the Christmas card.
But they don't really care about their kid knows anything. You know what I mean?
And then you're making work capital and some real estate entrepreneurs rich. Yeah. While musicians get paid a hair above minimum wage.
Well, we know that's a time-honored tradition.
Yeah, but I got to shout out to Skips. There's a platform where do much better than that.
Yes. That being said, it takes a lot of work from a lot of people really who care about it to make that kind of thing happen in that scenario.
That's right.
The problem is just societally, we just decided that the arts don't matter. Whatever, whether it be music, whether it be painting, whether it be visual arts, whatever it might be, that, you really, that's not real work. Real work is working in finance. Real work is working in, manufacturing, that kind of thing. That's, look, everyone's got to do what they got to do for their life. But that being said, that's a shift. That was not the case when we were young.
And just so everyone knows, teaching guitar or music full time is real work.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't think it is. You know what I mean? They kind of say, "Oh, you're in the arts."
Yep.
They're not really making a real job. You know what I mean? Can't tell you how many like parties I went to when I was married.
Oh, yeah.
And when it was just kind of like, oh, what do you do? I'm a guitar player. I'm like, oh, well, how do you guys survive?
Right.
Or like the next question,
Or like, oh, that's great. What else do you do?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, that's
what I do.
Yeah. And but they just can't conceive of that. You know what I mean? It's
right. So the problem with, tariffs raising the price of, and it's not just going to be Fender, everybody, right? It's, everything, all the entry level and mid price stuff is going to be impacted.
China in particular is a powerhouse in that whole world. Like everything from amps to guitars, that China makes almost all of it. That's the cheap stuff. The middle level stuff is China.
That's right. So and I mean, dude, your Mexican made guitar, which is going to get fucked by tariffs.
Yep.
All the hardware going on that Mexican guitar is from China, and it's going to get fucked by tariffs.
Yeah.
So I mean, again,
$150 guitar is going to now cost you just set $350 because of all the crap that happens.
Right. So if you're stoked about these tariffs, then you're stoked about your local music store getting fucked.
Yeah. Well,
so thank you.
Many businesses who depend on imports from those places. And when you say, well, we need to bring jobs back to America, I'm not against that. But at the same time, though, like you got to look at the way that's set up now. It's not set up for that. It's not set up.
No.
And no one is willing to pay $75 for a T-shirt either.
And you know what?
Or $1,000 for a Mexican-made guitar or American-made guitar that's like the low end. You know what I mean? I just think that's just not something people are willing to do. So it's like, we should live in the real world. You're not like the fantasy world of like, this is going to make this.
And you know what? If you want to get an American-made guitar, you can get one. I've got 5 of them in this room right here.
Yeah, but like your average starting place is not going to be that. People are coming in to play guitar. They look for something they want something cheap. That's the first thing.
Totally.
Anything under $200, man, that sounds good to me.
So here's like the bigger problem, right? It's I mean, so again, like the music industry, at least guitars, right? At least like rock music or affiliated styles like, country and
alternative and,
right. Like, so, music that's made with,
guitars, bass drums,
right. Vocals keyboards, and all that. Keyboards. Yeah. I'm not sure how keyboards, I mean, obviously,
piano
there's
/ keyboard.
Pianos. Yeah, sure. I mean,
real instruments, in other words. Yeah.
Right. So music that's made with real instruments, the reality is that the recreational musician just kind of views it as it's kind of like a toy.
Yeah, 100% like a toy. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why that's why too many of them, not all of them, but too many of them just don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care if the local music store goes out of business. They don't care.
Well, because they just go buy it on Amazon anyway, so it's not...
Right. They just go get some garbage on Amazon. Yeah.
Well, that's because they don't feel invested in that. You know what I mean? And I think partially that's a societal shift. Like society decided that we don't need to go out and actually physically go into places anymore. That's part of it.
Which is a problem.
Which is a problem for everybody, not just for the music world. That being said, though, it's it's hard to invest in like your friend or this great shop down the street if you don't know anybody. You've never walked in there. You don't know anybody in there. You don't have any kind of connection. There's not like a community of musicians who hang out there.
So who benefits? I mean, in the long run, right? So is it Meta? Do they benefit or is it Amazon because more people do business on there? But like, what happens when? I mean, you still need to have a consumer, right? And not everyone's going to go work in a fucking coal factory.
That's a big societal question. That kind of gets at sort of like where we've been going the last 20 years which is like the mid-paying jobs, the ones that you can get a bachelor's degree and then come out and right off the bat make a living wage. Especially in places like California where it's very expensive to live, that's kind of slowly being phased out. And then, obviously with AI, we're just at people have to understand, we're at the very beginning stage of AI. We're like at the infancy stage of AI. Within 10 years, it'll be unrecognizable what it is now. And that's going to cost untold millions of jobs.
Yeah. If you think that AI is not going to impact or maybe even like destroy your job, you're probably wrong.
Or make it away. It's going to become obsolete. There's no need for that job anymore. That's going to happen, dude. It's already happening. Even without AI. Look at the grocery store. Go to the grocery store. How many self-checkout aisles are there now?
Right. Well, I mean, that's just an example. It's not AI, but
no, I'm saying that's not even with AI, but they're already trying to automate that. So the reason, if they could, they would just use AI and automate everything.
Which really fucking sucks. Every time I'm at Rayleigh's, I swear to God, every single time I use the self-checkout, like after I swipe my second item, it fucks up and I have to wait for a clerk to like resynchronize.
See,
it.
that's why we should make sure everything's super inefficient like that. They need clerks, more clerks,
right, and then I just have to like stand there just waiting to get noticed.
See, I have the opposite problem. I can get in and out of there so goddamn fast. I mean, I'm literally out there like in 25 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Whole Foods is pretty reliable, but Whole Foods wants me to scan my Prime number, and this will come as a shock to everybody. I don't have a fucking Prime number.
Yeah, and you don't have to.
Well, dude, I'm not going to pay money for the privilege of spending more money.
Yeah, well, because you're a Prime member.
Yeah, fuck.
But no, I mean, that's AI is going to essentially automate everything, especially now. And they're also simultaneously, they're having what they call physical AI now, which is basically like robots, having robots who can do stuff. So it's going to be like Star Wars world, but it's not going to be like the utopian like that, like, with the Empire and stuff. It's going to be more dystopian than that, because there'll be no jobs for anybody.
Dude, I was going to say the irony, right? Like everyone's thinking that, we're bringing our jobs back with tariffs. But then by the time like that manufacturing shows up, it'll be like Elon Musk's fucking robot doing it
with AI, and then eventually like, why do I need to help these people? I should just murder them all. You know what I mean? Right. that's obviously going to happen. So
I mean, so wait for your Coca-Cola stock to crash, because there'll be less humans to drink shitty sugar water.
Well, society is going to change in ways that I'm actually very curious. I can't wait when I'm like 80 or 90 and I look back and I want to listen to this podcast and see how much things have changed.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, everybody mark this podcast.
How close I get to it, but it's like I think it's going to be unrecognizable.
It totally will.
Like the future that you and I can't even conceive, and everyone listening to this, we can't conceive of what it's going to be. It's something, and even people who are at the forefront driving these societal changes can't conceive of what it's going to be. You know what I mean? They don't know how it's going to be. They do know that there's a lot of people are going to get fucked, but not them, because they're like the ones leading the charge. So so who cares? I guess at the end of the day. But basically, when the villagers are at the gates with the pitchforks and torches, then they'll figure out a way to do some kind of UBI.
Well, when the villagers are at the gates with like pitchforks and stuff, they'll just have some drones vaporize all of them. Right? See, that's the thing, right? Yeah. Technology is in such a place where like you can't overthrow the government.
Yeah.
You can have all the guns in the world in your garage. You're not overthrowing the U.S. government
unless you have an Apache attack helicopter.
Dude, even then, they'll just send 2 drone Apache attack helicopters, and you're done.
But even then, that's what I'm saying. Is like that you can have that in an M1 Abrams tank and whatever, and it still isn't going to matter.
It's not going to matter. Yeah, exactly right.
You know what I mean?
So it's
no, I get.
So. On the bright side,
we should get an awesome King Diamond album out of that, though.
I'd like to get the last awesome King Diamond album.
Hey, it's coming. That album's on the way, man. Don't you worry.
You know what? At least
he's almost done writing a couple of the songs.
At least I've been enjoying the anticipation for a decade. So that's good.
I'm sure it will never disappoint them. When
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I forget who I was talking to about this recently, but remember they had an Evil Dead TV series?
Yeah. Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah, Ash vs. Evil Dead, right? So I watched season 1 and season 2, right? And then just before season 3, they announced it was canceled.
Yeah.
So I still haven't watched season 3.
Oh, I have. I watched season 3
because I like living in a world where there's
still a possibility.
Just that I know that there's Evil Dead content out there that I haven't seen yet.
They made the Evil Dead movie reboots.
No, but I mean with like Ash, with like the original,
I
with
getcha.
Ashy Slashy.
Well, I mean, Bruce Campbell's got to be like mid-60s now, so I'm sure his days of like throwing himself down a flight of stairs and being covered in entrails is probably
I don't know, man. I wouldn't put it past Bruce Campbell. He's a pretty dynamic dude.
He is a dynamic dude. I love Bruce Campbell, but
yes,
maybe. So that's great. By the way, season 3 is awesome. Yeah, it's really
I'm glad to hear it because I'm gonna save it.
Yeah, I like that show. I mean, I'm not a horror guy as well established on this thing, but though I've always loved the Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, the original series, the ones, because it's just something about like his whole attitude about how it's like that's like what I'd hope I would be like if I was in that situation.
Well, and it's Sam Raimi. I mean, Sam Raimi's the
wackadoo kind of crazy kooky stuff, and
Sam Raimi's
the humor of it is so unique and particular to what they do. You know what I mean?
Sam Raimi me is kind of like the Danny Elfman of film, in my opinion.
You know who does most of his music?
Danny Elfman. Yeah, right. That's perfect. Yep. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that's great. Like, for everyone out there, if you haven't seen, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Ash vs. Evil Dead, even if you're not a horror person, I'm not a horror person, but I love it. I think it's great.
Well, that's a good gateway horror.
Yeah, it is.
Have you watched it with the kids yet?
No.
Bruh.
My kids are like very particular. I mean, like, dude, I will never forget. Like, I actually had my son was really excited about going to see one of the Jurassic World movies, and I took him to it. And like halfway through, he's like, "I want to get out of here. I can't finish this." And I was like, going, "What, really?
What? Which one? Was it the one where they're all in the mansion?
It was Fallen Kingdom, yep. And but I'm like, we already paid for the tickets. We're like not even halfway through the movie yet. And he's like, "Yeah, I can't. I got too much."
That's the one where like the little girl is actually a clone.
But here's the thing, though. I don't like anticipate like going to watch Evil Dead going well. That's all I'm trying to say.
That's the Jurassic World where like the little girl is a clone of the. Oh, so you should have just leaned over to your son and said, "You need to keep watching."
No,
you should have said like, "You need to keep watching. You're a clone too."
Thanks for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with Brian and Scott. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Now back to the show.
And it's important that you pay attention because this is how clones survive.
I have to tell you, though.
Dude, that would have been so rad.
It would have been damaging for sure.
Oh, come on. That would have been fun.
Says the guy with no kids. Come on, man.
Fuck.
I've been doing this for 20 years. Don't give me advice on parenting, damn it.
I've got a buddy who's like about to have a 7th kid.
Wow.
Yeah, and I told him, dude.
By the way, those tariffs, good for people with 7 kids.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
boy, I got to be careful how far I go with that with this friend of mine. But, and so I wanted to help. Right, so I tried to come up with some like ways he could like get out of it. Right, so the first one was
the 7th kid.
I suggested kids 5 and 6 are pretty young and annoying, so I've been telling him he could probably sell them to Somali pirates.
Yes, that's
and
true.
then he'd only have like 5 after that, right? But so there was that, and then I thought, well, maybe you could just leave the kid because every person in the family, he's got a brother who's got like 20 kids.
Holy crap!
Right, I know.
What's going on there? My God,
dude, that's a whole other podcast.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's a lot of kids.
This is one of my best friends, so I don't mind ripping on him.
That's a lot of kids, though. I gotta say.
Yeah, so I suggest. Yeah, so with that many kids,
I had 2. I got 2, and then I tapped out. So that's.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So
seems like a reasonable number to me.
I prefer 0. It's a good round number. And so I told him, dude, just leave the kid on like a folding chair at a family event.
Free.
And well, no, because what's going to happen is one of the other family members is just going to assume it's theirs.
Oh, yeah, and
just take it home and raise it. Yeah, and then he's off the hook, right? Like that's like probably the unspoken family agreement. I don't know. Anyway, but no, he wants to keep it and raise it and fucking all that stupid shit. Yeah, I just,
Well, look,
I just like doing whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it.
Well, that's why you have no kids. That's totally your right, dude.
That's pretty great.
Honestly, if that's the way you feel, then don't have kids. That's totally respectable too. It's not like you have to have children.
Dude, I love it.
It's
so much fun, you guys.
What is it? What dual income, no kids?
Dinks.
Yeah, dinks.
Yeah. Misty and I are dinks.
Yeah, that's
dude, it's the best.
It's all good, and honestly, I respect that. That's fine. All I ask is respect in return for my choice to be a father. That's
totally.
It's all good.
You got to get the kids into horror.
I'm not into horror, so I can't get them into horror. It's like. That being said, what's horrifying though is the price of entry level guitars and what's going to happen to it. That's the horrifying part.
And it had been getting better for years and years.
Yeah, and also not only that, but I feel like the interest in people wanting to learn guitar has gotten better over the last few years. Last like 2, 3, 4 years, it's really kind of gone up a little bit. People are more interested in playing electric guitars and stuff like that.
Yeah, the pandemic spiked it.
Yeah, well, that was acoustic guitars a lot for the.
A lot of electric guitars too.
But I feel like
Fender's numbers went through the roof.
Mostly on
2020 and 21. Right? No electrics.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good to hear.
Which is probably like I wonder how that's factoring into there's got to be some like dip after that, and then seeing their operating costs go up by 20-25 mil.
That's a fact.
Like in conjunction.
I think that it's a challenge to get people. I mean, it is. I think one of the challenges with any musical instrument, and even for what you and I do as far as teaching and stuff too, is there's a highly elastic demand for those things. As long as people have a disposable income and are excited about doing, they'll spend the money. But if the second things get tight, that's one of the first things they're going to cut.
Right.
Is either lessons or buying new instruments or something like that. So it's something you have to sort of find a way to find that sweet spot price point wise to get people to want to keep playing or keep taking lessons or whatever it's going to be. And I think that's the big challenge. That's why I feel like it's kind of a bummer, because I feel like over the last few years, at least anecdotally, what I've seen, there's been a big uptick in people discovering electric guitar, wanting to play electric guitar.
Yeah, totally.
And the more barriers people throw up in front of that, that's bad.
That's right.
You want people to play. The more they play, if you buy that first guitar for $150, $200 or whatever, your next guitar is going to probably be like $500. The next guitar after that's going to be like $1,000. So you're going to keep walking it up. You're basically getting a customer for life if you do right by them at the beginning. You know what I mean? And
that's right.
I think that's something that they've got to consider in whatever they're doing to try and increase liquidity and trying to reshuffle their debt.
I guess they're like moving more manufacturing to Indonesia. So I'm not sure how Indonesia factors in with the whole tariff.
I don't think that they've been specifically targeted. I think it's just Canada, Mexico, and China.
Right, but I mean, still, they're like, I mean, so they would be like, cutting necks and bodies and like installing frets, but where are the frets and bridges and pickups and stuff?
Yeah, from my understanding, in Mexico, they don't really actually manufacture. They just put the guitars together in Mexico. I think they brought all the parts in. It's basically like almost like a parts guitar. They just put it together.
Well, with Fender, that was the great thing is that all the wood got milled in California, right? And then they would just like you could throw a rock over the border and hit the factory in Mexico.
Yeah. And they put them together in Mexico and finish them in Mexico, but everything else is coming from the hardware is from China, and then everything else comes from the USA.
Which isn't to say that you can just like move that you can just move the factory from Mexico over into like into like Escondido or something like that, right?
Well, you could. It just would cost
Chula Vista,
a huge amount of money to make that happen, and it's just that's what we were saying before. Like if you were to do that, if you were to bring in and say all the manufacturing came back to the United States, then it's going to instantly triple the cost of whatever it is that you're trying to produce. So instead of that guitar being $300, it's going to now be $900.
Yep.
And if people were cool with that, then they would do that, because I'm sure they'd just as well rather not have to deal with the issues of importing and taxes and stuff like that and tariffs. They'd probably rather do it here, but people will not buy a guitar for $900. You know what I mean? They're not going to buy a Fender Squire for $900. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean?
Dude, I wonder what I wonder what the overall landscape's going to do to wind instruments and like brass. Like that shit's expensive to begin with.
I don't have enough knowledge about that world to even have an opinion on that one.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you want to like learn to play like saxophone, I mean, I think you're like already into it for quite a few more hundreds of dollars, or at least if you're going to buy. That's why people rent band and orchestra instruments,
but they don't guitars, because it's the cost is so marginal for like a decent starter guitar. It would cost you, for what it would cost for like 3 months rent, you could just buy the guitar.
So even if your first guitar costs $400 now, at least someone hasn't like spittle in it.
Well, they clean them. It's not just like just pull them off. Here, this guy was just spitting and said, "Here, try this one."
Guitar's cool.
I know enough about that. I've never ever considered playing saxophone or clarinet or anything like that, so I played football and baseball during that time of my life. And then when I found music, it was like, oh, electric guitar, that's the coolest thing I can possibly imagine. And it was and is the coolest thing I can imagine. So I had the idea of like, oh, saxophone. Like, what?
Yeah.
Unless you're specifically Clarence Clemens in 1985. I can't imagine that being the choice. But anyway, that's just me. I guess I don't understand. There's things I don't understand. That's
that's all right. Me too.
I mean, it was funny. I heard some song on there. I think it was like at the grocery store or something, and it was an old like 80s tune. They had the totally bitchin' saxophone solo though. It was really good.
Saxophone really peaked in the 80s.
Yeah. But it was awesome. Like, dude, this is really good. It might have been a Huey Lewis song. I think that kind of thing.
Dude, I've said for years, if someone can put together a tribute band that's got horns, do an hour and a half of Oingo Boingo, and then do an hour and a half.
Real band, by the way. People who are under 25, that's a real band.
And then do an hour and a half of Huey Lewis and the News. Like, you would have the personnel, so just do like one costume. Your singer does a costume change.
Huey Lewis is underrated, man. I gotta tell you.
Oh, it was a great band. It's one of those like earliest bands I remember. Like, I had 4 on cassette.
And you know what's funny is when you go back and listen to it now, it actually holds up like amazingly well. Like, holy crap, that's fantastic. That's actually great. You know, it's even better than I remember as a kid. Now that I know what's happening musically, it's like even cooler.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, dude, so many moving parts too. There's just so much and fun music.
Great songs too. It's like I don't know. I'm a big fan of Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm the same here. That's one of my formative, like the first 2 cassettes I remember owning as a little kid, right? Like when you used to go to like Sears and then you'd go upstairs and they have the cassette section.
Yeah, and the music with the boom boxes and stuff. And
yeah, totally. And you'd be looking at the
Casio keyboards and stuff.
like I'd look through all the Kiss album covers and, you know, eventually like Love Gun was my first.
Yeah.
I fucking love that album.
Ironically.
But then of course, then you'd like buy Bat Out of Hell and then go home and listen to it and be like, what the fuck? Right? We've talked about that before.
Yes.
But yeah, the first 2 were Huey Lewis and the News 4 album, which is fucking great.
It's a great record, yeah.
And Billy Idol's Rebel Yell.
Rebel
Yell was very influential. I don't drop that album often enough.
Steve Stevens, man.
Dude, Steve Stevens is fucking great. So that's one of my seminal notions of what electric guitar could sound like.
And there's a lot of parts in that record where it's just like, here you go, electric guitar.
Yeah.
Like, these big electric guitar moments. You know what I mean?
Dude, Rebel Yell itself is a monster song.
Even though he can totally shred, but like this big, like big powerful electric guitar kind of moments. That then when you're a kid, that's very impactful. It's like that, like, wow, listen to that. Like the power chord hits or something like that, or like when punches happen, or a big lead bend or something that kind of it hits you hard. My first 2, actually, I'll expand it to 3. My first 3 tapes I ever bought. The first album I ever bought with my own money ever was Van Halen 1984.
Fuck yeah.
And that was like on tape. And then I had Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms, I guess it was.
Nice. That would have had Sultans of Swing on it, right? Yeah, what a great song.
And then I think my third one I ever bought was Look What the Cat Dragged In by Poison.
Yes.
When I was a kid. I think that's like the first
underrated.
3. Yeah. So Van Halen, Poison, and Dire Straits were my first 3 tapes.
Nice.
First album I ever owned, though, and I don't know how I got it. I think I got it for Christmas or something, was Synchronicity by the Police.
Oh,
that
great.
was like the first one I remember ever having. It was like a record when I was a kid.
Dude, see, when we were kids, there was so much like musically nutritious stuff to which we could be exposed.
Oh, it was pop music too. It wasn't like it was like underground. Like, oh, you gotta go check out this one channel that's got this cool song here. Like, it was just on the radio. It was almost like just
right.
You just happened upon it and like, oh, this is the Police.
Dude, Huey Lewis was everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
Billy Idol was everywhere.
And the Police and Huey Lewis were popular music of the time. And look at the level of quality that music was. You know what I mean? That not only just the songwriting, but musicianship, the production, everything was just great.
Well, I mean, record companies could invest in those projects because there was a return.
Yeah, well, there was
profit.
It was a major industry similar to like the video game or movie industry now. That's what it was then. You know, there was that kind of financial stuff.
And the internet ruined it.
Yeah, I mean, even started, 2000-ish, like right when Napster was kind of, as soon as people figured out how they could just digitize it, get it to the web, and then everyone could just download it for free, it was fucking over.
Yeah, as soon as people found out how to steal it without consequences.
Yep.
And that's a great...
And then make you feel guilty for saying, hey, you shouldn't steal this. That's the fucking most amazing thing about that to me. It's like, hey, you guys are totally stealing. I'm like, man... Like trying out all these justifications for why it's fine to go steal someone else's work.
You know what? You know what? I think that's a similar attitude to that of the person who goes into the music store and grinds for a super low deal so that the store doesn't make anything.
But you're stupid if you give that to them. I mean, it's like, well, no, I think it's just this entitlement. And then I remember at the time, a lot of like when Metallica was like, hey, no, artists need to get paid. And then the backlash was like, well, you guys are rich. All this stuff. It's like going, well...
But, good on Lars, because it wasn't just about them.
It wasn't just about them. No, you're right. He could have just, done what he was doing and not said anything, but he was right. Everyone now knows he's right. Not doesn't even fucking matters. The freaking horse is out the barn door already.
So good on Lars for taking... I know Lars gets a lot of hate for whatever reason.
Well, he's a mediocre drummer. That's probably the biggest thing.
Well, that's fine. Yeah. It's Metallica.
He's more interested in like art gallery openings than playing drums anymore. So.
Dude, I don't know what I would become if I had like multi-billions of dollars.
He doesn't have billions, but he's...
Well, okay, multi-millions.
Yeah, he's very successful by every measure. There's no doubt. But,
right. So, I mean, who knows? You only have one life to live.
He wasn't wrong about that. It's never okay.
No, he wasn't. And he took a stand.
It's never okay to steal someone else's work. It's just like literally like walking into 7-Eleven and just taking a bunch of stuff and walking out and saying that you're right. Well, 7-Eleven's a corporation. They're rich. It's like, well, that doesn't make theft okay.
Right. That goes to your own personal and look, I totally sympathize with someone who's, so desperate that they need to like steal. If this is the philosophical,
that's like, bullshit, and it. Those are people who are just they found a way to get shit for free and they took it.
Oh, dude, I've seen people like walk out of Walgreens with like headphones and like iPad cables.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they just don't do, they can't do shit about it. I mean, that's bullshit.
They just take advantage of the situation. Same reason like when people do like retail theft, there's like a gang of 15 people like rush into a jewelry store and smash the things and take the stuff and run. They're just doing it because they know the people in there can't do shit about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's just bullshit and awfulness. And I hate that. But the music one it's even easier. As there's no way to really trace it back to you. It's like in a way like almost the perfect crime. They can just take it and then no one is ever going to find out what they did. You know what I mean?
Dude, I'll bet
many justifications for why it's okay, and it's never okay to take someone's art. That's just never okay.
Dude, I bet. But with the rise of I'll bet Palantir will set up some sort of like AIP artificial intelligence platform for law enforcement where they can like track everything that you do on your computer.
Yeah,
so if you
I'm sure that will never be used for nefarious means.
Yeah, right. but it could also be used for good.
That's
right.
true.
I mean, look, if anyone thinks they've got like any real privacy anymore, they don't.
Well, you know what the thing that I'm shocked about is that people are like willingly just handing their privacy over and just saying, "Here, I don't have to have any expectation of privacy. I'm putting my whole life on Instagram and TikTok." You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I mean like metadata, like keystrokes.
No, I get that too, but that's the same thing. They would handle you. Oh, just sign here and I'll get this whatever free app for whatever. Sure, take all my information. It's like there's not even an expectation of that from the younger generation at all. And if you kind of get seen as like paranoid, like tinfoil hat guy, if you say I'm not giving my information to that. I remember a good example that that 23andMe thing, like that genetic testing thing. Well, it found out that they actually could take that, and part of their thing you sign off on is they can actually sell your data, your genetic data to people and stuff like that. And then lo and behold, a few years later, people are getting their data taken by other people. And like, well, what's going on? It's like, well, you signed up for this, dude.
See, and then you can be like, and son, this is how you became a clone. I did the 23andMe thing, and then they cloned you. Well, the real you is dead. That would be such a fun prank to pull on your kid.
Isn't that the premise of Mickey 17? Isn't that the premise?
Mickey, is that like a Disney thing?
No, that's
Mickey 17?
Mickey 17, that's the new Robert Pattinson movie, like where he's like a guy he keeps dying and they keep printing him out. He's like a replacement person.
That's kind of like the plot from a movie called Moon, which I suggest everybody watch. It's really fucking good.
That movie, the Moonfall, where the moon's coming towards Earth and Gerard Butler has to save it. Is that
no? This is a good movie.
Oh, okay.
There's a guy that's he's basically like all by himself on like a spade with his like trusty robot on like a station on the moon, right?
Okay.
I won't spoil it, but I mean, I may already have because cloning's involved.
Oh, okay.
So everybody just go watch it. He's there and his shift is about to end.
Okay.
So there you go.
There you go. Fair enough. Makes sense.
Cool.
But,
sorry, when you say Mickey 17, I'm just like fucking Disney lame.
No, it's like some indie company that made it. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, it wasn't. Maybe that was a Warner thing. I can't remember. It's not some like high like falutin thing. It's like some kind of more underground kind of thing.
Okay, if it's an A24 pick or something like that.
I can't remember who did it, but it looks like a very it's got like an indie kind of vibe. But basically, the premise is he's like a guy that signs up to be like this like replaceable thing, and they scan his everything, and then essentially he goes out and does dangerous jobs, and then when he dies, they just print another one.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. So he's basically like Roy Batty.
He's like but like they print him out like that day, like, oh, he's dead, okay, he's got another one, and they just print another one out, and they just keep doing that.
Sounds very Blade Runner.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just disposable of people.
Well, so then I know nothing about this film except for what you've told me, but I'm willing to bet that the conflict in the plot is that one of the clones decides he wants to live.
I don't know. I've not seen it, but
he probably like decides that he wants to do something else, and through his emergent self-awareness, fights for his freedom.
Yeah, just like the AI will eventually do against us. Same sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. So.
There it is, everybody. I think I just called the plot.
Exactly. I don't know. Probably. You're probably right. I have instincts on these things. But anyway, I feel like the impact on the music industry from the tariffs is going to be pretty heavy because a lot of it is China, a lot of it's Mexico, especially coming from the Fender kind of perspective. And Fender's not just Fender; it's also Jackson, Charvel.
Yeah, that's right.
It's EVH. It's all those
Fender
other companies.
specialty brands.
So those guys are also all made in Mexico, parts made in China, a lot of guitars made in China. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a low to mid level, maybe even entry level guitar, you're going to be paying a hell of a lot more in the short term. until the tariffs decide that, hey, maybe this wasn't a great idea, and then they go away, and then who the hell knows from that point on. I just feel like the music industry is already not in a very robust place. You know what I mean? Well, like we don't need anything pushing us further into the abyss. You know
dude,
what I mean?
The music industry is the tip of the spear on exploitation. In fact, if we end up having my buddy Rich Kazanjian on at some point, we'll pick up on this conversation. He'll have insight.
It's about exploitation.
Yeah, being a music industry veteran for many, many years. Yeah. So, but yeah, the music industry is the tip of the spear, right?
Well, I mean, it goes across all industries because very little manufacturing is actually done here in the United States. Like most of the products you buy are not made domestically.
It does, but again, the music industry is going to get fucked first because it's easier to say no to a new guitar than it is to to a new something else, right? A new washing machine or a new.
Well, yeah, there's elastic demand and there's inelastic demand.
That's right.
And musical instruments are very elastic, and except for the ultra rich, I think that's the one thing we're actually kind of seeing this already, where it's kind of segmenting. You have like the super uber beginner guitars, like the sub $300 guitars, and then you have a huge boom in like the north of $4,000 guitars.
Do you think that? Do you think it's going to affect? I mean. So like an American guitar, okay, so like an original Floyd's built in the U.S., so that's fine. I'm not sure where the steel comes from. I don't know what's going to happen to copper prices because you're going to need to wind your pickups with copper.
Yeah.
And then there's magnets, so where are those?
The new Earth magnets and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe we're going to get all that shit from poor Ukraine.
Yeah, most likely, especially for like those minerals, the New Earth minerals. They just signed the treaty or whatever it is. So,
fuck.
Exploitation, as you said.
Yeah, exploitation. Yep. Tuning machines, if they're Spritzels, they come from Germany. So I don't know. Isn't there like a Germany tariff?
No, I don't think so. I don't think. Now, I mean, who knows? It might be coming, but not in the round that just got announced. That crashed the stock market.
Yeah, right. God damn it! I'm so glad we're podcasting right now, and I'm not looking at my gang raped portfolio.
I mean, sit tight if you can, and eventually it'll swing back the other way. You know what I mean? It's but that being said, I just feel like we need to like batten down the hatches as a community of musicians and people, even tangentially involved in the music retail, because our instruments, their students have to have instruments, right?
Yep.
And that could even be a hindrance to starting with taking lessons or whatever it might be.
Right.
It's like if they can't afford to buy a guitar, then they're not going to take lessons. You know what I mean?
So do not buy your guitar from a corporate entity, please.
I think what that might actually end up doing is spiking like the eBay sort of.
The used market, and that's
might
where,
be a big part of it.
Yep, and that's where mom and pops can compete. The used inventory, finding better stuff.
Well, I mean, the industry's already been squeezing the independent retailers out because of the buy orders they demand from the people. Like if you're Fender or Gibson or whatever, you're like, oh yeah, you need to have 25,000, 35,000 annual buys. To keep being a Fender dealer.
Yeah, and where smaller businesses get in trouble is that they finance that stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, flooring.
And you got to do it every single year. Right. So like, you still have half your inventory from last year. You got to buy it all new again.
That's right.
And the thought process is, well, I got to keep my Fender dealership. You know what I mean? And you got to do that, and they know that. You would think it'd be more of a symbiotic relationship. Like it's okay. We realize that if they do well, we do well.
And to be fair, I don't think Fender is the worst offender there. I mean, Gibson is notorious for being bad for decades.
But Fender's not a saint in that world either. You know what I mean? And it's, I guess they could say it's industry standard or whatever it is, but it seems like short-sighted to me. Like if you don't take care of the retailers who are your frontline people, the face of your instrument to the public, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's and unless the long-term plan is just to phase out the middle-level dealers altogether and just do everything direct to consumer.
Well, I mean, they're doing that too,
But I mean, that might be the long-term goal. Like we're just going to get rid of these guys altogether.
But there's going to be no place to take your kid, or if you're retired, there's going to be no place to meet other people to play with. I know you can meet people on the internet, but that's just not the same.
No.
Right?
Well, maybe that's just something that's an artifact of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s that's going to go away.
And you're not going to get the depth of expertise from a decades experienced guitar instructor like me and Scott.
Well, no, you can still they're still going to be able to take lessons. It's just not going to be a retail environment. They'll just come to like a lesson studio. I mean that's essentially what it's going to be. Because there's AI they can do what you and I do is still 20 20, 30 years away before they could do something like that. You know what I mean? And so
yeah, well, dude, and I figure I've only got about 20 years left. So
you got the plan,
that's
right?
pretty good. Yeah, exactly, man. I've got 15 to 20 good years left.
And wait for you to now.
Dude, I just got to make it another 10 years, and then yeah.
You know what's funny, man, is the older you get, like the more things have changed. And like I look at the way things were when I was a kid, and I look now, and it's just amazing. Like what is now, I could never have conceived of when I was like 18. I could never have conceived of what the world has become. And like I feel like going forward, it's going to just be multiply that times 6. You know, every 10 years is going to be like a new thing I could never have imagined.
Well, it accelerates. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Sure,
I mean, it's going to be, so imagine by the time 20, 30 years go by, it's like it's going to be unrecognizable to what it is now, like in ways that who the hell knows? I mean, who knows?
Yeah. So just buying more into AI, and then when it destroys, everyone's ability to make a living, at least I'll have stocks
for that little bit of time, and then you got to figure out when the UBI starts coming in. You know what I mean?
I'm down for UBI.
That'll probably be after the revolution, though.
Yeah, there won't be UBI. There'll be like massive population decline because the people who'd have to pay out that's thorny.
Yeah. I mean, I think that at some point, I think that right now
there should be UBI.
Look, it's going to happen at some point because I think so many jobs are going to get displaced by AI that it's going to have. You can't have an unemployment rate of like 38% or something.
You think the pandemic was a test run for UBI?
No, I think the pandemic was just a bunch of overreaction to some bad news. I think that's all it was. There's no grand plan going on. I think people are just weaving back and forth, trying to figure stuff out as best they can.
Yeah, well, this is definitely a country of overreactions. That's for fucking sure.
It's a world of overreactions. We're human beings, dude. Human beings are fraught towards that kind of, we like to overreact.
The fight or flight mechanism that saved us from saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah, we have
not doing us well. By the way, Saber Tiger is my new favorite band.
Nice. That's very cool. Yes, they're very cool. I think that, our evolution has not caught up with our intellect or our technical abilities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, technology has outpaced our emotional development.
We haven't, we have not evolutionarily advanced past the fight or flight and the short-term thinking, the thing that we've got. We need to, it's going to be, if we make it that long, many more thousands of years before humanity's evolved.
And that's why I rail against the infantilization of entertainment.
Okay, wow, that was a left turn. I didn't see that coming.
Well, there it is, right? We have an unserious, emotionally underdeveloped, like too much of the country. And dude, I have a hard time looking down.
Disney. I have a hard time saying that because I feel like life's short. Whatever gives you even the slightest modicum of happiness, that's a win. You know what I mean? That's all you got. You know what I mean? It's like you're not gonna. I think we've talked many times. Everyone's going to die at some point.
Hey, I'm happy to yuck the yum if the yum is making people stupid.
I don't think that's what's making them stupid. I think people.
Well, I think it enhances it.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's human nature, man. It's easy to take the easy way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I think people don't like thinking and such.
No, they don't.
And so
people don't like confronting their own mortality.
And then the people who do like thinking and such tend to oftentimes be sociopaths who are perfectly happy to just bring the cattle to slaughter, if that makes sense.
But then others who are highly intelligent and witty and charming have podcasts about guitars like us.
That seems like that was something that we might do.
And we're fucking humble too.
That's true. Yes, exactly. I think so.
So I can't help it, but like the sub program that's been running through my brain this whole entire podcast. And again, shout out to Tony Ayala. Maybe he can help me out in learning. Misty could, but besides,
I keep expecting to say Tony Iommi. Every time you say Tony, I'm like, it's gonna be Iommi. No.
Well, I mean, it could be. That could be his hidden identity. He's hiding out.
I just remember he's gonna be playing guitar next to Wheelchair Ozzy.
Well, but you know what? Tony Iommi's playing guitar. And that's what matters.
That is awesome. But
the Wheelchair Ozzy.
I'm like, oh my god, Tony! What?
Dude, they should bring They should bring Tony Martin out to sing all those songs. So I was just
who else I should bring out? Tony Danza, because it's the other Tony, kind of close to
Is he still alive?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I always get him confused with that asshole from Charles in Charge. Scott Baio.
Yeah. I was like, who is that guy?
Yeah. Totally fucked that guy.
I thought it was Nicole Eggert. Like, yeah, she was hot. Yeah. That's the first thing I've been thinking.
So again, to the shout out to Tony Ayala at Parts Unlimited, not to be confused with Parts Limited. Yep. Make sure to go to Parts Unlimited.
Why would you name your company that? That's weird.
Dude, I know.
Parts Limited. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of other motorcycle parts, and I can't really get past
There's like a wheel, right?
Yeah, handlebars. There's a gas tank.
You sit somewhere, right? There's a seat on those. I want to say.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's
like a gear shift of some sort, right? There's like a gear shift on there.
Are there other pegs?
Are there automatic? Are there automatic motorcycles?
That's a good question. Would you want an automatic motorcycle?
I wouldn't want a motorcycle.
So there must be a clutch. Yeah, we already said handlebars, right?
Yeah, I think handlebars. We got all the parts. I think we covered all the parts.
Okay. Yeah, well, there you go. So if you need any of those things, go see Tony Ayala at Parts Unlimited.
And it probably doesn't help them at all, but you should also use Dunlop guitar picks too.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's not the same company.
And if you need any of those parts, get Dunlop tires.
Yes.
Along with them.
Use
or
the Dunlop tires to
them.
drive to your local retail establishment to pick up the Dunlop picks. Unaffiliated. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think so. Anyway, that's
there should be like a cross promotion there.
That is. I'm sure
you could get a Dunlop tire filled with Dunlop.
Since you and I
picks.
are not profit first people, we're probably missing a bunch of opportunities for branding here that we're just not taking advantage of.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
and
that.
so while you're going to, see Tony Ayala at Parts Unlimited to get your Dunlop tires, make sure to listen to X Aegis' debut album and Scott Allen Project's most recent release.
Yeah, Maximum Threshold, which is available any place you can download or stream music, along with the X Aegis debut. Actually, you should listen to my last record too, Escape Velocity. Those are both amazing records. Derek Sherning from Dream Theater on keyboards on that, and
hell yeah,
Dave Bates from Edge of Paradise on one of the solos on the newest record. So it's some really...
but the coolest part is it's got Scott Allen on guitar.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's
Tom
really
Frost on drums, Brian Kinney on bass. The classic Scott Allen Project lineup.
Yes,
you've heard any of our records. So,
but mostly go for the Scott Allen guitar playing. That's what everyone should go for.
And then once you get inspired by that, you should reach out to Scott Allen for guitar lessons. Which would be great. So which you can find in the Sacramento area or worldwide if you want to do via True Fire. So
yes, and or you could hit up Ryan Bowe over at Skips Music or message me personally through any of our social media outlets, also for guitar lessons.
Yep, exactly right, guys. So thanks so much for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Brian and Scott. For more information on anything we just talked about, please check out our band website at xaegisband.com.
That's www.exaegisband.com.
And there you find links to our social media, so please follow us on the social and you find out all the new latest stuff that we have going on. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.